Good morning. I'm glad to see a lot of you have come back for day 2. So grateful that you would join us this morning early at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. You are joining back for the Big Talk, The Thriving Marketer by ISBM, and this is our day 2 session where we have 4 more great presentations for you. I want to thank you all for coming back. Let me just show you who I am. Lynn Yanyo, and I'm your Executive Director and host for this conference. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about ISBM, mostly because we have folks that are online that are new to us, and also because I just want to give everybody a minute to make sure they've all got settled in. This is ISBM at Penn State, and I want to welcome you to this day 2 event. The exciting thing about this is that we had about 210 or so people signed up as of the start yesterday, and we had another 10% increase over yesterday. So thank you for recommending to your colleagues that they join us. It's one of the nice things about having this online is that you didn't have to travel to Penn State, as lovely as that campus is. And I'm really glad that you're all with us. And again, feel free to encourage your colleagues to join us for today. The other interesting thing, of course, is that we've recorded everything. And if you joined us yesterday, you can go back to that same link and listen to it again or share it with others. And it'll be available to you if you're a member continuously from our B2B Pulse. So I'd also like to welcome our MBA students that are joining us today, particularly in the next session. And we're welcoming them because, as I'll mention later, they also serve as future interns for us or employees and help us, our member companies, do research. I'd like to welcome our research faculty and our fellows. We inducted Eric Jochumthaler yesterday, and we have another induction today. And I do welcome our prospective new members. Thank you for joining us and taking a look at ISBM for your company. So here's some FAQs that I'll just go through again quickly. Know that you have the ability to get help, and you can email Lori Nicolini, which is the bullet in the 4th bullet down, or in an emergency, dial 814-863-2782. And we had a few glitches yesterday, but very few. And so I'll just make a mention that if you have a buffering challenge, you might want to close out other things that are in your browser that might be hogging some bandwidth, and that should improve that. And if you're probably having problems with your sound, you want to make sure that you have Flash enabled, and there would be a media player on the screen that you would click on to enable that. And if you have other concerns, feel free to contact us through the Q&A box or through an email to Lori or dialing that number. So we encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. There's a box at the bottom that's called Q&A that when you open it, you can type in your question. Those questions come directly to me and I see them. And if it's appropriate, I will actually ask the presenter to answer those in real time. Otherwise, we will do them at the end of the session. We have polls that will appear within the slide window. We've got some today to experiment with, and I hope that is interesting to everyone. It's certainly interesting to us. I want to thank you all who were here yesterday that responded to the survey. We had a great response to the survey. We had over 50% response rate for people giving us feedback to the attended events that they had. And we've already incorporated that feedback in what we're working. So we had quick turnaround on information. That's one of the reasons I'm offering some information about the logins, and also about what you liked about the events and what you would have liked to see us improve. So we're working on those too. Thank you so much for that feedback. So in addition, we want to remind you that, again, you'll be able to find this at B2B Pulse, always available to you as a recorded event. And we'll be providing a list of everyone that attended, all the members via B2B Pulse. So ISBM is the world's only B2B think tank. We eat, sleep, and drink your challenges. We have over 200 leading academics and educators and over 40 companies that are practitioners. And we encourage you to look at the ways that we can take value from this if you're one of our member companies. This is just a quick slide to show you that we've got some fairly high-powered talent working on research for us. You'll hear from Gary Lillian again today, who will be inducting Rob Palmatier into our fellows. And this is a small sampling of our current membership. I just want to go through a couple of things to make sure, since you may be new to us or you may not realize that you have these great benefits from being a member. So we have 6 areas that we can provide value to you, and I hope that you'll think about how to take advantage of these. One is professional education, where we provide courses. I'll talk about that in a minute. We provide direct coaching and marketing lifelines. That is, if you've got a question on a Friday afternoon and you need help, you can contact someone from ISBM and we'll be able to help you or direct you to someone who knows. We offer networking and events such as these, and I'll go through some of the upcoming events. We have marketing resources and talent, and we have an MBA Practice Program that should be able to help you. And we regularly send you insights research through email and other links. So just quickly, we have the largest B2B curriculum, and we're well known for this. It is a curriculum that is focused on B2B. At the bottom, you'll see there's a few examples. Our next class coming up is Voice of the Customer by Gary Katz. It's a great program, and you'll see that in my summary coming right up here. So our events that we host, you're in the big talk today, our new online method of delivery. Our jam session, the next one coming up, is in March. Please hold it on your calendar. It is for platform growth, and that is based on the resounding response we had to Eric's talk yesterday. So while we're going to talk about growth, we're going to talk about platform growth. And that will be a physical event, the location to be determined. And we're also talking about doing it physical and online so that maybe everyone can get a little bit of everything out of that one. The Voice of the Customer is our next course, as I mentioned, with Jerry Katz, and a taste of that comes from the free webinar that you can sign up for on September 26th next week. Jerry will be just giving you a taste of that in the webinar, and you can try that out before the course. We will also have future webinars. We have one about once a month in the various topics that you're seeing below there. Our MBA Practice Program is now in its 4th year, I think. Ralph will correct me if I was wrong about that. And we provide access to Penn State MBA students that help with research, analysis, finding trends, and just generally, if you can define a project that they can do within a semester's time, we're there to help you. We have 3 companies that are taking advantage of that this semester, and if you're interested, please reach out to us. And lastly, I'd like to remind you that everything that we have in terms of information for you is found at B2B Pulse. If you are registered, feel free to go shopping there for anything you need and ask us questions if you can't find it. And if you aren't registered, please let us know. We'll be happy to get you connected. So here we are at day 2. Let me just go briefly through the agenda. We have 4 presentations today. Our first one starting in just a few minutes. And then at 10:30, we have Amy Heiss and Aliva Tower-Perkins from Dell talking about social selling. I think you'll find that fascinating. We've already also built in a few polls in that particular event. And then following that, we have our ISBM Fellow induction, as I mentioned, for Rob Palmatier. And that will be just a 15-minute, 20-minute presentation. I hope you can join us for that. Then we'll have a break. And after lunch, we'll have a twofer, James and Michelle, talking about the online supply chain management tools for B2B. And then our wrap-up speaker, Jerry Wind, who's going to give us a fabulous summary of all of these things we've been hearing about in reimagining our B2B marketing and building our agenda at 2:15. So again, I encourage you to ask your colleagues to join us as you did yesterday. Thank you. And I'm going to take us toward the introduction, even though we're a few minutes early. How unusual for me to end early. So hold on a second here. So I'm going to give you a picture of Paulo while I do an introduction. So Paulo Costa comes to us with 15 years of international experience as a consultant in business intelligence, analytical CRM, data mining, and in diverse industrial sectors that include information technology, communication, retail, finance, and others. He has extensive experience leading the development of analytical applications to address a variety of business challenges in B2C and B2B. His academic and business background includes graduation in statistics and optimization and marketing at Wharton School, the University of Georgia, and George Washington University. He's a leader of a team that won the AMA NCDM 2008 Gold Medal for Analytics and Modeling. Now, as marketers, we love data. So we're going to love this talk because I'm sure that we're going to hear all about that. But, data alone doesn't solve our problems. We have to be able to do something with all of that raw data. And as we heard yesterday, it is marketing that brings it all together and helps people see the big picture from all of the information that we have. So I would like to welcome Paulo Costa, and I'll turn this over to him. Paulo, it's off to you.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks very, very much. I would like, first of all, good morning to everybody. And Lynn, I would like to check if you can hear me well. So let me know if you have any problem hearing my voice, given my phone here.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I will jump in, Paulo, if there's a problem. Let me just remind everyone who doesn't know that Paulo lives in Florida, and that one of his homes was in Key West, which may or may not be a good place to have a home anymore. And I don't know if you've seen it yet. As the last time we talked, you had.
No, I'm still trying to go over there, but I hope I saw the satellite picture. Looks like it's okay. But anyway,
good. Well, so the challenges are many for you talking with us this morning, and we appreciate that. And if you'll just speak loudly, I will understand that there's a little bit of echo. So thank you.
Yeah, no. So thank you very much. I would like to thank ISBM and Ralph, you, everybody in the ISBM to invite me to having me to present this talk. Actually, this is the second talk that I do for ISBM. The first one I did several years ago, probably 3-4 years ago, and in the talk that I presented several years ago, I talked about the WAR framework, how Cisco was using an analytical framework to develop the analytical models and be successful applying analytical models to increase wallet share, acquisition, and retention. Today, I'm planning to talk a little bit more about the WAR, but not only about the WAR, specifically the models, or talking specifically about the models that we have in the WAR framework. I would like to talk about the influence, how Cisco was able, how the analytics, advanced analytics organization was able to help the organization as a whole to succeed, to be more integrated, to be more standardized, and to, in the end, to get better results overall. So let me move the slides here. Okay. So the title is basically what I just described. So delivering organizational value through advanced analytics. So how advanced analytics was able to aggregate Cisco, different organizations, sales, marketing, HR, finance, and all of them in some way are working together behind or using or sharing information, models that we develop in our team. So what I would like to do is to actually introduce first Cisco for the starters. And second, I will talk about the foundations of the team that we built, the major principles or the pillars, if you will. And I will also talk about the WAR framework and some aspects of the WAR framework that influence the whole organization, the whole Cisco in different sectors, in different groups. So just for starters, Cisco is a manufacturing company that produces network equipment. So I would like, in a nutshell, is basically the internet is running A lot of the internet runs in Cisco equipment. We produce routers, switches, servers, you name it. The market value today is around $107 billion and revenue $48 billion, so it's a very large company. And we have around 70,000 employees. So we are investing in several areas. One of the most recent ones is Internet of Things or Internet of Everything. That is actually coming very fast, as you can see in cars and several other appliances that you have at home, starting with AIs and things like that. So I think everybody knows Cisco, so I'm just putting here to be safe. So let's start to talk about the advanced analytics team. So the advanced analytics team, the charter was to deliver insights for different organizations. Initially sales and marketing, but actually in the last 7-8 years we worked with finance, HR, and several other organizations at Cisco, including fraud detection group. They use some of our models to detect fraud. I can talk more about this in the end if you want. And the idea is that we use advanced analytics to generate insights. And the first important topic is, or discussion, if you will, is what is advanced analytics? Nowadays, everything is analytics. Simple Excel spreadsheet is considered to be analytics. So it's important to define what is advanced analytics. And for us, advanced analytics means applications of advanced statistics, multivariate statistical analysis, machine learning, artificial intelligence, another beautiful name, forecasting, and optimization. So, and forecasting, I mean time series forecasting, econometric models. Optimization, I mean mathematical optimization, not find a good solution or anything like that. So those are the areas that we work. And in terms of personnel, we have a group of essentially mathematicians, statisticians, engineers, data scientists, working collaboratively. And this is an important topic. We don't have, this is the first point that I would like to make, we don't have a structure, a hierarchical structure, a formal hierarchical structure. We work more in the network format. So when you talk about production algorithms or the production side of the house, things that we run every month, every day, we have some hierarchical structure. But when you talk about new projects, new models, actually what's happening is when we have a new problem, we put together a team combining different parts of the larger team, or even outside of our team, that will probably best address the problem or the challenge that we have in hands. So it's not very hierarchical. You can see more everybody collaborating with everybody in some way or fashion. And one important thing, and the WAR framework is here actually, is we have been using for almost 8 years the WAR analytical framework as a basic framework that will connect the models with the business objectives. And this is crucial, because if you build models without business objectives attached to the models, you'll be in trouble actually defending the models or supporting the models or presenting the models to the top executives or to the business side of the house. We also have a modeling methodology that is proven, and we developed over the years a business impact evaluation protocol. So ways to measure not only the business results, but actually how efficient and how good are the models, so the models can learn as the time passes. We have a bunch of experience, combining experience, and as I described before, we are specialized in those 4 major areas: advanced statistics, machine learning, forecasting, and optimization. As Lynn mentioned, we won the NCDM gold medal, and we were mentioned several times in Wall Street Journal and HBR for best practice in analytics, in modeling, and a variety of things. So let's start to talk about the conceptual pillars of the group, of the analytical group that we have, the advanced analytical team. And I would like to start talking about core competence versus outsourcing. So basically every week I receive one or two calls from consultant companies, most of them in India, trying to sell engagement, analytical engagement. It's unbelievable. Every week, 2 or sometimes 3 calls per week, different companies. And my experience working with those companies since 2002, when I was in IBM, was not what I would call an excellent experience. So I have several problems in the past with this kind of consulting companies trying to develop advanced analytical models with us. So starting from intellectual capital protection. So I remember cases that we developed models together with the company, and 6 months later the model was available in being published without our authorization or being presented in seminars. So basically the model went public. Hidden costs. So sometimes what is looking very cheap and affordable, it's not, because you need to pay actually extra for software because the software is being used overseas, or you have to travel, you have people come for training, not counting that every time that we start an engagement with a company like this in our area, you spend a lot of time training them to learn, teaching them actually about your data, about your business problems. And what I usually say is the first 6 months is actually you are spending more time, your capability decrease actually instead to increase with the outsourcing, because you spend so much time teaching them about the business, about the systems, that you cannot do what you have been doing before. So, despite this fact, so they insist that they can perform develop those kind of models, and my reaction is always trying to understand what kind of contribution they can make to the business, because now the point is they call me asking for opportunity to develop propensity to buy models, cluster analysis, segmentation models, things like that. And I usually say that this is business as usual, and I don't see a lot of value in those kind of models anymore, in terms of those models are public models, so everybody's developing those models. You can have those models developed easily by internal consultants or external consultants locally. So the point is, when you are buying a consulting company, you are buying insurance policy. This is what I'm trying to make, the point that I'm trying to make. So those propensity to buy models are, hold on a second, guys. I have a small issue here in the office. Just a second, please.
We're going to take a quick little pause, hoping nothing bad.
The lights are blinking here. The energy is going down. I'm in the backup power. Hold on a second.
I'm sorry that we're asking you to do this from Florida, where there are still challenges there. Okay, so I'll just make sure I keep the live air while we wait for Paulo to make sure we have enough power. And I'll encourage you to ask questions as you're thinking through this. One question has already come in, and so when Paulo comes back, I'll just pause and have him address that as well. If you're interested in this topic further, this is an area that we have active research. So, and I see Paulo has moved the slide forward. Are you back, Paulo? I can't hear you on voice. Paulo, if you've gone to mute, I can't hear you. I'm just going to type them a note.
No, I can hear you now. The phone is rebooting. Just give me 30 seconds.
Okay. Paulo, if I could, while we have a pause, I had a question come in that wanted to understand more about the name War Analytical Framework. Could you expound on that to help us understand what that means? Or just keep working on your site?
Just 1 second more.
Okay. Again, so not to leave dead air, we're just pausing for a second while Paulo, who is in Florida, makes sure that he has enough power and reboots the system to keep things running there.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh,
I'm sorry, guys.
No problem.
Let's
So
hope that there is no more fluctuation in the power here. So I apologize. So the question about the war. The war stands for the war approach. I will talk more about the war approach later. But the war stands for W for wallet share improvement, A for acquisition, and R for retention. And we use this acronym that was created in 1999 when I was in IBM with other consultants. We were trying to sell data mining at this time, and this acronym was created to represent the core marketing objectives, the marketing objectives directly related with revenue or bookings or profitability. So, and usually what we said at this time is that those 3 core marketing objectives were the only objectives directly related with money in some way or form. So when you improve, for example, customer satisfaction or customer experience, the money is coming from more wallet share, more acquisition, and more retention. So the models are connected with those 3 core marketing objectives. In 1999, we tried to launch a book named The War Framework, but the name was not well accepted by the publisher. We had another war. I don't remember which war it was anymore, but anyway. So we changed it for RED. There is retention, acquisition, and development. So I keep both. The WAR framework or the RED framework are basically the same idea. But coming back to core competence versus outsourcing, so this is a very important trade-off in my opinion, because I believe that advanced analytics should be core competence. And I believe that it should be core competence because the competitive advantage comes only from innovation. And the innovation will come only if you have the people developing your own models. Lynn, there is a noise in the line. It's coming from you? Okay. So the only source of innovation is actually your internal people developing new models. Developing new models, developing new approaches. Developing new models, new approaches. And when you are buying service from a consulting company, you have all the problems that I mentioned earlier. But on the top of this, you have the fact that you are buying what I call insurance policy, because you buy what they call the best practice that they have. They spend time in the past developing 10, 20 companies, and they will develop for you a model, propensity to buy model, that it's available in several other companies in the marketplace. may be your competitors. So you're actually buying insurance policy. If you don't have any model, it's okay to buy insurance policy. You can buy the models from a consulting company. I really doubt that the competitive advantage is coming from those models. In other words, competitive advantage is coming from innovation, and innovation for me means people. So this brings another trade-off between people and software. So a lot of people believe, a lot of CEOs or CMOs believe that the solution is to buy a software and automate analytics. So, or buy a BI software and create dashboards, create cockpits, things like that, and all the problems will be solved. And this is definitely not true in my opinion. So again, the software that is more related with BI, it's not producing, in my opinion, the innovation that advanced analytics is capable to do. So this is what I'm saying here. BI and advanced analytics are not the same thing. So BI is more related with reports, dashboards, KPIs, and advanced analytics with predictive models, machine learning, interactive visualizations, the creation of insights. So this is a very important point. Core competence versus outsourcing. And I strongly emphasize that advanced analytics should be core competence, not necessarily outsourcing. When you are outsourcing, there is nothing wrong with this, but you are actually just buying insurance policy. That's it. Another point that I would like to highlight that is a pillar in our group is the trade-offs between what I call idiocracy, democracy, and dictatorial. So we try to develop a system that the best ideas will win, not the most common ideas. In the democracy perspective, that if each one has the same weight, or in the dictatorial, that my idea is the correct one. So we try to work very intensively to, and I'm personally involved on this, to the philosophy that the best idea should win. So I try to stress test any idea that we have. I try to find the smartest people that I can find to test the ideas before we implement, before we spend time, so we can go forward with the best possible ideas and spend some time developing models to realize those ideas, to put those ideas on practice. So one of the points that is really very important is I heard a lot of people talking about we need to maximize customer experience. Customer experience is the only thing that is important. Or I see other groups saying that we should maximize profit and forget about the rest. And I usually, this graph is, the intention of this graph is to show that we have an inverse relationship between those things. Not necessarily the relationship that you're seeing is just conceptual. But the idea is you need to find an optimal solution between customer experience and profitability. So of course, if you spend tons of dollars in each customer, you can increase the customer experience up to a certain level, but the profit is going down. And this problem, this optimization problem is far from trivial. It's much easier to develop a model to maximize profit only or customer experience only. So, and we try, this problem is not solved yet by totally, we do not solve the problem totally yet, but we have the objective to solve this problem in the near future. And this is a very important point that I saw major groups making mistakes like solving or creating campaigns that maximize profitability or maximize customer experience, or they develop actions to maximize customer experience, forgetting completely about the impact in profit that those actions will have. So another topic that I would like to highlight is maximize advanced analytics in models and insights, organizational and processual pervasiveness. So 2 things that we tried to do. So the first was to maximize the models, the pervasiveness of the models in the organization and in the processes. So those are 2 different things. And it's important to understand that when I talk about processes, we believe that all the processes in the organization should be smart. They should be smart processes in the sense that they should have, as much as possible, advanced analytical models or AI or anything like that supporting the process as much as possible. However, when we talk about organization, not everybody should have access to the data or to the models. And the definition of who should have access of which data, it's actually a big question that we have today. This the definition of the frontiers about who should receive what. So it's very clear for us again that the process should have completely, all the process should be augmented with analytics, but the people, the organization as an organization of people, we need to be extra careful about this because we have legal aspects, we have several other security aspects that we need to take care before we create a tool, for example, and make this tool available to everybody in marketing or everybody in sales or everybody in the organization that shares information about the customers, information about the revenue, information about everything that you can imagine. And in our case, I believe that one important point behind the success of the advanced analytics team at Cisco is the fact that we have 2 delivery mechanisms. So we actually produce 2 things essentially, data and insights. And the data is very pervasive and distributed across the databases and going directly to the processes. For example, we send all the models that we produce to the corporate data warehouse, Hadoop data warehouse. And several processes go to this data warehouse or this system to get the propensity to buy score, to get opportunity sizes, lifetime values, etc., etc. But this is one piece of the story. The other piece of the story is we also have insights. We have a group that is parallel to my group in the same organization that are actually consultants like Buzala and McKinsey consultants that they will, and with a lot of experience in the data that we produce in the models that we have, that will work internally teaching the leadership team about how to use the models to create strategies, to create plans, to maximize the efficiency of certain campaigns or marketing actions. And this was absolutely crucial to increase the usage and the penetration of the models across the organization. So the point that I'm trying to make here is we need to be careful because a lot of people, a lot of groups of competence in analytics, they have only one of those channels, or they have just the channel delivering the data or just the insights. And it's absolutely important that you have both. Only with these 2 mechanisms, you will be able to be pervasive across the organization. So the last pillar that I would like to talk about is the WAR framework that someone was asking a question. The WAR framework, as I described earlier, WAR stands for Wallet Share, Improvement, Acquisition, Retention. And we basically use this acronym to represent the core market objectives. Core market objectives are the objectives directly related with bookings, profitability. And again, we use this acronym to describe also to play with the word war. There is a war in the marketplace, etc., etc. But the idea is that we connect each one of the models with one of those objectives. So it's easier for the top executives, for the leadership team to understand what a particular model, neural network model is doing actually. in terms of results and measure the impact, etc., etc. And in the WAR framework, we divide the problem in 2 steps: the definition of where to compete first and how to compete as the second step. And the where to compete is essentially a portfolio analysis. This portfolio analysis could be as sophisticated as you want. We have several variables to create the dimensions of this portfolio analysis, but the idea is to look the marketplace and determine which sub-markets we would like to compete. So in the picture you are seeing S1, S2, S3, 4, etc. So the idea is to determine which sub-markets are interesting for Cisco in terms of business strength, attractiveness, etc. And again, we have several variables like the wallet size that I will describe later, wallet share, lifetime value, and other measurements that will help, that basically help us a lot to create the dimensions of this portfolio analysis. So after you define where to compete, so which sub-market you would like to compete or you should compete, the next step is to find out how. Let's try to move the slides. So the how to compete is basically for each one of these sub-markets, I will create what we call the war game board, or the war game board or the red game board. So the idea is for each company in the sub-market 1, imagine that the sub-market 1 are banks with more than 1,000 employees in South Korea. So for each one of those banks, I can plot them. I have data about them. I have their wallets. I have their bookings. I have everything that you can imagine about them. By the way, all the models that I will talk about in this presentation are available for all the companies basically in the planet. So we have propensity to buy scores for every company in the Dun & Bradstreet database essentially. There's more than 100 million companies worldwide. So in a nutshell, for each company in S1, I can locate a company in the game board like the one that you are seeing. And the game board is basically describing in the horizontal axis the wallet share and the vertical axis the wallet size. So companies in the right top corner, we have high wallet share, high wallet size. So the objective is to retain them. Remember, we have the war objectives. The ones with medium-sized wallet share and large wallet size, we need to increase the wallet share increase. Low, we should ignore or we should be reactive. The ones with low wallet share, large wallet size, we should acquire them. And the ones with high wallet share and low wallet size, we should optimize coverage. So we have objectives associated with each one of those companies banks in South Korea with more than 1,000 employees. And now, the next step is, okay, I need to retain those companies in the top right corner. How I will do that? So now the models came in. So we need to define the marketing mix, the 4 P's of marketing to actually achieve this objective, to retain those companies. And we have a family of models that actually do this. So the matrix that you are seeing on the right side, you have, for each one of the P's, you have a family of models for retention, for acquisition, and for development. And on the top of this, on the base of this matrix, we have 2 foundational models that we call. The first one is the segmentation model. That for us, this is one thing that I highlighted in my first presentation. The segmentation for us is we have only one segmentation model. Segmentation is a reserved word. We don't have 20 segmentation models. We can have 20 different views of the market, but segmentation, as we define, is our definition of segmentation is a group of companies that react in a similar way to the 4 P's of marketing. This is our internal definition, and we have one. But in Cisco, you will see probably 20 or 30 segmentation models that they call segmentation models. And we actually, I can talk about this later, we developed a tool that we call multi-layer segmentation model, that allow the combination, and you can shuffle those 20, 30 models, put one on the top of each other, and see how they interact. But it's a different conversation. But anyway, so segmentation model is the foundational model. So we have one segmentation model, and this will fulfill all the demands that we have to create the 4 P's of marketing. Customer evaluation models, we have more than one. We have the wallet size. The wallet size is a model, probably the most important model that we have today, that estimates for each company, again, in the planet, how much they have to spend in each fiscal year for each technology that we have. And this model is available for the past and for the future for the next 4 years, and for the last 4 years. So this allows me to calculate the wallet share per technology per company worldwide. And this will allow me to track, for example, partial churn or performance, loyalty, you name it, a variety of things. And actually, as a side effect, we can also create what we call the new lifetime value. Because before, lifetime value was defined as the present value of the expected cash flow. And for us, this old definition, it's not very, how can I say, efficient in terms of the companies with small cash flow but large wallet, because they are not very good customers of us yet, will fall behind in the list of most valuable customers or customers with a large lifetime value. So for us, the lifetime value is actually the value of the company for the market that Cisco belongs to. So it's the present value of the expected wallet in the future. And we are fighting with the other companies for wallet share. So when we rank the companies in terms of value, we are looking the value of them for the market, for the networking market in the next 4 or 5 years. So inside the customer evaluation models, as I mentioned, we have the lifetime value model and the wallet model itself. We have variations of the wallet model that measure opportunity, because the wallet sometimes is a big number depending on the technology that we are talking about. The wallet itself is too big. For example, servers. We sell servers. Despite the fact that you do not know probably that Cisco sells servers, we sell servers for data centers, etc. But IBM, HP, they sell much more. They have a much larger market share. So when I calculate the server wallet for Coca-Cola, for example, it's a big number. But of course, if I go to the sales force and say, look, Coca-Cola has $10 million or $100 million wallet for this year in servers, the Cisco sales guy will say, Paulo, this is no realistic number, because we just started in this market. We don't have a position. Our services are limited to certain areas. So we have a number that actually is what we call realistic number, or realistic wallet, or opportunity number, that try to estimate how much is actually feasible for the sales force, looking the whole wallet available. Here you can see a summarization of the matrix that you saw very small in the previous slide. So on the top you see forecasting, econometric analysis, and models. So we have a family of forecasting models that we develop using econometric techniques to forecast Cisco booking, Cisco revenue for different combinations of products and countries. So those numbers are used by finance and sales. So they consider those numbers independent forecasting, because we are not looking necessarily at the pipeline or anything like that. We are looking macroeconomic conditions and previous behavior. But despite the fact that we are not looking at the pipeline, the numbers are pretty accurate, sometimes more accurate than the sales numbers. So this is in the top of the box. As I told you, for each one of the P's, we have models associated with one of the objectives. The P2B I already talked about a little bit. So those models the objective is to predict, to calculate the probability for each company to buy a particular technology or product family from us in the next 2 quarters. and this information goes to Salesforce.com, to a variety of tools in the sales organization and in the marketing organization. We have models that we call refresh cycle, models that estimate using survival models when the company should refresh the certain equipment. Market basket analysis is like Amazon. When you buy a router XYZ, you usually buy the switch ABC. So we try to use those models to increase the bill specifically. In the time of sale, we try to maximize the basket. Actually, the correct name is the basket. Using this kind of models, and this information goes again to the Salesforce. Adoption curve. Adoption curve is an interesting model that we developed that based on the looking for each company. We try to find out when they bought products that we are launching in the last 10, 15 years. So I can see companies, for example, that usually buy products just after we launch. So they are early adopters. And companies with the opposite behavior, the laggards, they buy only in the end of the story. So, and we are able to classify each company for each technology in those classes, early adopters, majority, laggards, etc. Marketing mix optimization. Hold on, the lights are blinking again. Oh my gosh. Marketing mix optimization is a very commonplace model right now in the large organizations. Is we are trying to find out what is the optimal strategy, price strategy, promotion strategy, etc., that maximize the bookings or the profit in the next n quarters. Brand optimization, same story. Funnel stage identification. So one problem that we have is to identify the position of each company in the funnel, the marketing funnel, awareness, understanding, relationship, up to sale. So we develop a model that is able to identify the position using hidden Markov models to identify the position of the company in the funnel, and this will help us a lot to customize the actions to maximize the efficiency. Price. We work in a couple of cases of price optimization, trying to find out the optimal discount. And price and adoption curve is that sometimes Cisco use the adoption curve to determine the price. So the price will be different for early stages of when we are launching the products, and will be cheaper in the end of the story when the laggards are buying. So they use some of the adoption curves to determine price. Place, partner optimization, partner wallet share. So essentially what we have for companies, for the wallet size, we have for partners. What is our wallet in the partner like CDW or DiData? So how much of their sales is actually Cisco equipment? And what is the average wallet size for the customers related with a particular partner? So all this information is available nowadays, and we can use this to optimize the partner relationship. And the basic models, the foundational models that I described earlier, the customer and prospect evaluation models. By the way, the wallet is not only available for customers, the wallet is available for prospects also. So companies that never bought from us or bought before 2000. And this is important. This is another difference from lifetime value, that usually lifetime value is available only for customers. But in our definition of lifetime value, we have lifetime value for customers and prospects. So this is an overall picture trying to show our basic offerings and capabilities, the propensity to buy, the share of wallet, the customer analysis, customer lifetime value, calculation, segmentation, etc. And the stakeholders that we support in the organization, partner marketing, portfolio marketing, corporate communications, etc. And in the top, what kind of uses we observe that they are applying, how they are applying the models that we develop. So campaign strategy, marketing targeting, resource prioritization, the sales funnel analysis that I mentioned earlier, and opportunity identification. Just to give you a perspective of how the strategy was successful in some way, this is a small pictorial representation in a graph form about the different groups at Cisco that use the models that we have in sales, in marketing, in the business. And we have more than 40 organizations using the models in a different way. For example, I mentioned the one that was using for fraud. In certain countries, we observe that certain people create a company like a partner and come to Cisco and say, look, to sell to the company XYZ, a big company, for example, in Brazil, I need to have a special discount. I need to have 70% discount for the routers. And because the opportunity is very large, they create a business case, and Cisco in the end gives the discount, 70% discount. And what's happened in the end is we ship this equipment to Brazil, and in the end, nobody from the original customer actually bought the routers or the switches. And you will see later these routers and switches appear in the black market in the US. So this is one type of fraud that we have frequently. And to avoid this kind of situation, one of the actions that we are doing is to use the propensity scores. If the company XYZ that was mentioned and was supposed to buy 10,000 pieces of routers, 10,000 routers or something like that for a very cheap price, has a small propensity to buy, something strange. So this kind of usage of the propensity scores for fraud, I was never imagining when we created a model, but it's something that they are using or they used in the past to try to avoid this kind of situations. So now, one important piece that we developed is what we call the Analytics Café. The Analytics Café is for us the front end of all the models that we have, all the data that we have, to the leadership team, to the analysts, to the planners. And basically what we did is we created an immersive environment. So this stand is surrounded by monitors and telepresence in the back. You cannot see because the picture is just showing some of the monitors in the central table. But you're surrounded by touch screen. Those screens are touch screen, high resolution, and you have telepresences in the room. And the idea is that you can ask any question that you want during a presentation, during a brainstorm, during a planning session to those screens. So usually, how many times I was in a presentation showing examples for this is the behavior for Brazil of the sales of routers, blah, 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 blah. And someone asked, how is it in Argentina? And I don't have the slide for Argentina. Now you have. So now you have all the information to augment your presentation, to answer any question in real time. Even create models in real time, you can do it with certain tools that we have in the cafe. So this is a very important tool that we are creating. We are still testing. The reaction was very good so far. And we are trying even to include voice interaction with the monitors to facilitate, to improve the connection or the capability to ask questions, because sometimes to type questions in the monitors, in the vertical monitors, is not a good idea. So that's it, Laurie. This is what I have. Lynn.
Paulo, thank you very much for toughing it out through your environment. I really appreciate you getting to us from Florida. I've had a few questions come in. No problem. I had a few questions come in. Could I pose them to you. I decided to just let it hold until the end. So there are kind of two categories of questions that I'm seeing. One is about some specifics. We all know that you can make models and have great analytics, but getting the data to the model can be the challenge. Can you help us with a couple of those questions? Like one, how do you determine size of wallet and where does that data come from?
So this is a very good question. This is a presentation by itself, but I will try to summarize and give you perspective. So imagine, I will talk about a couple of principles. Imagine that we work for a supermarket chain, like Publix or Albertsons. And you monitor the customers buying products in your supermarket. And you notice that Paulo goes to the supermarket and buy only salad dressing. Paulo never bought the salad itself. Two of one are correct. Or Paulo is crazy and eating just salad dressing, or Paulo is buying the salad in another place. So when I can try to estimate the amount of salad that they are buying in another place, looking the amount of salad dressing that they are buying that Paulo is buying with me. So I can try to complement the basket, looking what the customer is buying from me specifically. So this is one of the aspects, right? And the data that we use is only our data and Dun & Bradstreet data essentially. We are extending this. We are starting to use more data from other sources. But now, specifically, we use, to be honest with you, we use Dun & Bradstreet, our bookings data, and we use macroeconomic data. But the idea is to complement the baskets, to find out which customers are the best customers in terms of baskets. Because in the same supermarket, you have people that buy just few products. You have people that buy the whole wallet in the supermarket. You need basically to identify those guys that are buying the whole wallet and use them as a baseline. And use the partial purchases to match the total purchase, the total basket that the best customers are buying. But again, this is a long conversation. If you want, you can send me a mail. We can have a call, and I can describe in detail how we calculate the wallet. But it's a very interesting model.
Yeah, we've had a couple of folks that are wondering how they can just hire Cisco to do this for them. I'm assuming that Cisco doesn't rent you out. No?
No.
Just a thought that maybe Cisco needs another business line. But another question that we have is, it was titled is, how much education do you need your internal customers to have to really understand and appreciate the power of what you have? Do you have to build analytical knowledge base inside of Cisco to be able to have them appreciate and use what you're doing?
This is an excellent question. Really very good question. To be absolutely honest with you and candid, I don't know. I believe that sometimes we have people without first of all, it's not necessary to have the mathematical knowledge to understand the concepts, in my personal opinion. So you can teach the concepts, you can give the ideas. For example, we talked about several concepts here. We do not talk about any equation, about anything like that. So I talked about the war framework, the retention here, acquisition there. And we are not talking about models. I can give you opportunity numbers, and it's not necessary to talk about models. So it's like the doctors can use a tomography, or you can be a patient of a doctor using tomography without any idea about how the tomography actually works, right? And the PET scan, the same story. So probably if you have an idea, you will not be in one of these machines. But anyway, so my feeling is sometimes it's a roadblock. Sometimes people, how you do this? This looks like magic or something like that. But and they try to understand, and we try to explain. So it's case by case. But at Cisco we have a lot of educational sessions about analytics. We have IT giving training about analytics to everybody, and we have we call the university that internal university, that we have classes about, not only about analytics, about marketing, about several topics of marketing, and this definitely helped a lot. But one thing I can tell you, when I look historically, the majority of the customers that we have, despite the fact that we are in marketing, were not from marketing, were from sales. So sales see immediately the power of this kind of capability and how these capabilities helping them to make their numbers, achieve their quotas. Marketing is definitely a user, but sales is far in front of marketing in terms of usage of our models, our numbers, our techniques.
So they use them not only for, say, prediction of sales, but you gave the example also of discounting and behaviors. Is that the two main areas, or are there other areas that sales uses it?
No, sales is using, for example, they need to launch a product with marketing. So the definition of who will receive the offering for the product we are launching, this just happened a couple of months ago, is based almost totally in the models. So we are not offering, for example, a new product or a new technology to a company that is not an early adopter in the adoption curve. Remember that I talked about this? So the early adopters are the natural companies that will receive well the new technology. The laggards will be reflective. So the company needs to be early adopter with money, with wallet, with opportunity size, and so far so on. So we have several other models that help us to focalize specifically which group of customers should be targeted in a particular launching or in a particular marketing action or marketing and sales action.
Great. We have another question that I think a lot of us are probably feeling. Let me ask this one first. So how large is your analytics group that works on this?
We have 21 professionals.
21 professionals, okay. So the question is that Cisco is obviously far along in advanced analytics. If you're a B2B company that's a little earlier in this journey, can you look back to where you started? How do you get started in this area if you're really just at the basics? Maybe even, as you described, someone that was outsourcing some of this analytics and are not getting the kind of performance they really need from an outsourced method.
Yeah, what I will do is, if you don't have anything, or if you have just small number of models, you are not structured for analytics or advanced analytics, I will, to speed up the process, I will hire a company to create the foundation, the propensity scores, the basic thing, the insurance policy that I told you. It's like a bank imagine a bank, a financial institution without Bloomberg access or Reuters. They cannot work without those things. Those things are insurance for them. Are those things establishing a competitive advantage? I doubt, because everybody has. So you should have. So in this perspective, I will hire a company to create the Reuters and the Bloombergs for me immediately, with one condition: open source. I need to understand exactly what you're doing to not be a black box, and I will put my people to learn as much as possible. And after we have the basics and the people already trained by this company that you hire, this group of people should evolve and try to create their own models, mutations of the models, and evolve to new models that will differentiate you from the competition. This is my personal opinion. If I was starting today a company, this is what I will do.
Great, I appreciate that. I think that's very, very helpful. I think that you're right. Often we outsource, but we don't specify how much of that intellectual property that's created is able to come back to you. So I think that's a great way to make sure you've launched it. I have one last question, and unless other people want to type in, I have one left here, and that is, can you give us examples of how you create insights and what that delivery mode of insights is to executive level?
Yes, this is another very good question. Delivering insights to executives is a complicated thing. But we generated several insights in the past. For example, one insight is what we call the second tier. So at Cisco we have noticed some concentration of revenue in the top for certain product categories. So you have a concentration. Imagine that you have I will try to simplify, but imagine that you have what we call hyper concentration. You have too much bookings in a couple of customers. So you have hyper concentration in customers. And this means that you have what we call a second tier of customers that is still large customers with a small wallet share. So there is a significant opportunity to move the second tier up. And what we notice is every time that we start a new campaign in the past, we were increasing the problem because we are doing some kind of Pareto analysis and saying, let's look at the top 20% that generate 80% of the bookings. So we are concentrating more and more in the top. And concentration, of course, is not a good thing, as everybody knows. There's more risk, etc. So this was one of the insights that we generated recently. And this is probably starting several campaigns, several actions. And the way that we communicate, we are trying to use two ways to communicate. The first one is the café. We try to bring the executive or the executive team, leadership team, and try to show them what I'm trying to describe verbally. In the graph, showing the numbers, showing the situation, giving names of the customers, etc. And the second way is try to bring the executive. We are able to bring a couple of them. The CMO went to the cafe already, the CDO. So we are able to bring some of the executives to the cafe, but sometimes it's not even necessary to bring to the cafe because you can participate in the cafe through telepresence or WebEx. But in the end, the old PowerPoint is still the final mechanism to present to convince the executives about a certain strategy, a certain point they would like to make. But I believe that this is changing, and this is changing rapidly.
I think it's very powerful that you speak to the fact that sales uses your data far more readily and frequently, and I find that fascinating and exciting for you. So we've come to the end of our time, Paulo, and I thank you very, very much again for toughing it out with us. I hope that everything turns out well there and for you in Florida. And I will turn to the audience again and remind you, thank you so much for attending and your questions.
Thank you, and I apologize for the gaps for the technical situation here, but the power went off 2-3 times here during the presentation. Thanks God I have the backup power, so the phone did not drop and the computer stay alive.
Yes, well, I hope everything gets better for you from here. So to the audience, I hope that you will take your 15-minute break and talk amongst your teams about this and join us back at 10:30. Our next presentation is scheduled for 10:30, and I think you'll find that very fascinating. We're going to talk about social sales teams with Dell. So thank you again, and we'll see you in 15 minutes.
Thank you.